Hey folks, hope y'all are having a great day here. It's time for more Writestream, this time the music edition. So, hope you guys are having a great time. Actually, I'm going to start with this camera so I can... I may sound a little bit different because I'm using a different microphone setup in order for me to be able to actually do what I want to do today, which is to have music and to have me being able to do commentary. So I'm going to go and bring that music down a little bit. And yeah, so I'm turning on a really bright light. Oh man, it's bright. Dragons love books. Okay. So yeah, new book. Came out yesterday. Finally got the physical's actually been available to order for a while now. So here's the physical, Tyrant Scala. Looks pretty nice there, I'd say. A little bit thicker than book one. So book one is closer to 40,000 words, and this one is closer to 60,000. So give you a little bit more story in this one, a little bit more action and more humor in Tyrant Scala. So if you haven't read the first one, City of Silver, that's 99 cents on Amazon. Gave it away for my birthday. I might have some more giveaways soon, so people can hop in on that one. This one, people really like this one. I call this 310 to Yuma, but fantasy. And this is going to be, I don't even know what this is. It's full of craziness. There's lots of crazy stuff going on in this one. So that's that. I got the physicals. So for those of you who want to collect the paperbacks, they are looking pretty good. And I think they'll look good on the shelf there too. Lined up pretty nicely. Yeah, lined up pretty darn close. Yeah, everything's pretty much lined up. I had a little more room on the spine so I could have more of my name this time. Instead of just Stewart, it's David V. Stewart. As you shrink the spine, you have to start cutting stuff out. When I had a really thick book, I think Muramas is I made a really thick 8x5, and you could put tons of stuff on the spine. You could have things as big as you want. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me, guys. And here's what I figured I'd do today. There's not that many people watching, which is fine, which is good, actually, because then if this stream sucks, there's not that many people disappointed with what I'm doing. So what I thought I'd do today as far as music goes is just give people a little bit of an insight into how I go about writing and recording music, the music that I've released under the David V. Stewart's Zool moniker, which I think you could still get the album for free at zoolonline.bandcamp.com. You could still grab that if you want and listen to it and give me an appraisal of what you think. But what I thought I'd do is give everybody a little bit of an insight into how I do that, because I do something a little bit different than a lot of people, and I don't spend a lot of time with staff paper doing more traditional composition like I used to do as when I was in the university and writing for other musicians. Because I'm writing for myself and my own capabilities, I do a little bit more of what I call direct composition. This is the way a lot of musicians write their music now in, I guess, the popular sphere. You use a digital audio workstation and you basically play your music into your you play your music into your DAW and do all of the arrangements there. This is essentially how someone like Kanye West would compose his music, but my music's very different. Now for me, I rather enjoy this, and I kind of developed the approach that I'll hopefully be able to display a little bit today, basically because I really wanted to enjoy my time with music, and that meant avoiding score writing programs, which were getting increasingly dysfunctional, especially about 4 years ago. About 4 years ago, it was pretty much impossible to get a score writing program that functioned, that didn't crash, that actually had the same features that they had back in 2000. It's a weird and long story how Sibelius and Finale both ended up becoming non-functional software, but I really hated using them. And moreover is that I realized as a composer, and now at this point, almost 20 years ago, you really have to rely on yourself to play your own music. You're not going to get other people to play it. So it's really worth your time to develop your skills as a performer, not just as a composer. So I started performing my own music, and once I started performing my own music, I realized I was doing a lot of extra work as a composer that frankly didn't need to be done with score writing. Writing in dynamics, for instance, I knew what the dynamics were, even to the point where I could strip down a composition to really raw elements like just a chord sheet and improvise with what I was going to do with it, or it would just exist mostly in my head and I would record it. So I just started developing more in that area using DAWs. And what I would hopefully like to do today is how to start with just an idea and develop it into something. I probably won't be able to do a complete composition like beginning to final mixing or anything today, but I can hopefully display a start of how you start a piece and how you get it to work functionally, and how you can develop some ideas and how you can arrange those ideas into something that makes a piece of music without having to go into the depths of doing theory and things like that. Now, I'm a very experienced musician. I know my theory really well. I've also been playing jazz for 20 years, so this appeals to my skill set, which is I'm very good at improvising in general, and I'm very good at understanding theory and working with what we would call jazz theory, which is mostly around chord changes rather than say counterpoint or something like that. If I were going to compose something really thoroughly with counterpoint, I wouldn't use this method. But anyway, that's what I wanted to dig in for you guys. So hopefully you guys are having a good day and you'll enjoy this. Now, before I dig into what I'm going to do here, let me see how many people are watching. Not that many, about 35. I appreciate everybody that's watching. Happy birthday. Thank you, J.R. Moxley. You haven't listened to your new albums, wondering if either it or future album you might make something less ambient and more melodic. It's very melodic. If you haven't listened to it, then you can listen to it. Ambient doesn't necessarily mean lack of melody. It's really, it just kind of pegs the instrumental rock genre, or instrumental ambient rock. And what that really means is that you have instrumental music that uses a certain approach to filling up the space and certain kinds of repetition to kind of fill things out. But give it a listen. You can listen to it for free on YouTube if you want to, or you can listen to it on Spotify. You can listen to it in a bunch of different ways. So I don't ever avoid melody. In fact, usually I do a lot of melody. So we will get into how you can go about doing that. There's a couple approaches to how you can write melody and things like that. But anyway, let's start with the DAW. So I'm working in Ableton Live, and Ableton Live is a program that I probably use only a small portion of the feature set. It's a very feature-rich program. It can do all kinds of stuff. Even it can control external hardware. You can use Max MSP as like a part of this and have randomized effects. Max MSP, I don't have time to get into it, but it's a Visual C based computer program that you could use to do all kinds of weird audio things. You can do a lot with this program. I like to use it for a couple of reasons, and the main reasons I like to use it is that, number one, it comes basically fully equipped. It has a huge number of patches that come with the full software program. It's not cheap, but it's got pretty much everything in it that I really need, including drum sounds and things like that. Its MIDI editor is extremely easy to use. It uses a wide variety of hardware flawlessly, and it works really well for what I do, which is lots of overdubbing. Now, there are things that it's not good for, and it's not good for live recordings, but I would use a different digital audio workstation like probably Reaper at this point. I don't think I would use Pro Tools. I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law. The Pro Tools just is not very functional anymore. It crashes a lot. This program doesn't crash very much. It's very reliable. I have plenty of computer power to run it. Comes with all the patches that I really want to use, and if I really can't find a sound that I want, I can go find it really easy on the internet, versus if you buy something like really stripped down like Reaper, it won't come with any kinds of keyboard sounds. So you have to do a lot of work to set up Reaper, but it's a lot cheaper. It's only $60. But I like to work with this. It also uses measure views, which for me are very easy to work with. It's very easy to edit the MIDI. It's really easy to do audio and MIDI at the same time. It's really easy to change tempos. It's really easy to do a ton of things. There's even another view here that you can work with if you like to do a lot of improvisational stuff or mixing loops. You can do a lot of the same stuff that I'm going to demonstrate here in, say, FL Studio. That would work fine. I think this is, I don't remember if this is called arrangement mode or session mode. I'm not sure which one. There's one where basically you can queue up loops and mix and match things by clicking on these different areas, and you can even have hardware that'll control it. My keyboard, that portion of my keyboard is broken now. I used to be able to like punch in different stuff with these buttons on my keyboard over here. Now it's doing sounds. Whoa. I don't know what my favorite synth on Appleton is. I have no idea. I don't have a favorite. It's a toolbox. So I like this. This is Woodwind Ensemble. Let me turn it up a little bit. You guys can hear it a little bit. I don't know. I don't have a favorite synth ever. It's just sounds to use. And in fact, I may not even use synth at all for this demo. But anyway, that's why I like this program. Comes fully equipped with pretty much everything I would want to use on it. It also has a lot of audio effects that I don't have to go out and find. It has a soft tube amp that's built in that works really, really well. I don't have to load impulse responses. I can use it with external plugins like the Poolin Amp Pack or something like that. And those all work flawlessly. It uses Cubase plugins. It pretty much uses everything. It's a really great program. So let's go ahead and jump in and let's talk about before you start composing. Once you have your tools, and I've got guitars here. I've got the MIDI keyboard hooked up. I even have a drum set that I sometimes use to key in drum parts. Before you start composing, you really want to decide what it is that you want to do. And real quick, Autobots and Decepticons switched to Reaper last year. Lots easier to get into than Cubase or Pro Tools. So I have a friend who basically runs all the recording classes at the California State University campus around here, and he's like, I'm totally dropping Pro Tools. Got to the point where like you couldn't open sessions. It's like I couldn't open my student sessions on my computer. It just like the compatibility was awful. Pro Tools back in 2004 was awesome. But as it has gone forward, it gets more and more complicated and less functional. There's a problem with software bloat that after a certain while it starts to be like a dead elephant on your back and nothing ever works flawlessly. It's a problem with a lot of Adobe products right now too, is that they've become so feature rich. A lot of their core features sometimes break for no reason. With Photoshop, it's difficult to export a JPEG sometimes. Like that's basic functionality, and it sucks that stuff doesn't work. Doesn't work that great. Okay, so we want to start with what kind of piece we want to compose, and there's lots of different options, right, for what you want to do. Depends on what you want to go for. So if you liked the last one I did, that's more like an ambient guitar thing. I avoided percussion entirely. You could do things with percussion. You could do things without percussion. But you want to start with the mood. Do you want a piece that's really kind of very laid back, very calm? Do you want a piece that's a little more active, a little more driving? Do you want a piece that feels more like a heavy metal song or something like that? What kind of feel do you want? And then from there, that's going to determine a lot of your tools that you're going to put into your box to make the piece. So, for instance, if you wanted to make a metal piece, obviously you would start with guitars. Like you have to use guitars in metal, so you'd make sure that you have guitars available. And then you would also need to include drums and bass, so you know what instruments you're going to include. Maybe you could put in some orchestral keyboards or something. And then you have to know, okay, well, I have different tempos, and different tempos are going to feel differently. So if I wanted to be really heavy like Black Sabbath, we're going to go slower. We're going to go in like the 90s and have a little mid-tempo piece. And then you can start coming up with riffs, record them in with a metronome, and start building all of your parts from there. For this, I think we're going to stick to something that's a little bit more ambient. And for ambient work, or what I call, instrumental rock, it's often a good idea to approach the harmony before we approach the melody. You can do these in either direction. You can start with melody, then write harmony for it, or you can start with harmony and then write melody for it. It depends what you want to accentuate. If you want to focus on how the harmony is going to function or not function, start with that. If you want to accent how the melody is going to operate, start with that. So if you're doing like a soundtrack piece and you really want like an oboe melody, start by writing the oboe melody and then write chords that are going to fit with that. For this one, I think we'll start with chords because that way we can focus on doing what I call non-functional harmony. So whenever we're doing harmony or chords, there's a couple directions you can go in, and there's a couple different tools that you could put in the box. So functional harmony is going to be that harmony that makes sense from the common practice period. Common practice period is everything really up through now, including jazz, but would exclude things like atonal music and that kind of stuff. So if you were having functional harmony like in the key of C, you know, C, F, maybe D minor, and G7. So you have this cadence. That G7 to C major, that's a cadence. That's a strong sense of arrival. You have tension building. Maybe A minor. Non-functional harmony, you're going to move in a different direction. Functional harmony, you tend to move in fifths, you know, A, F. Non-functional harmony, you're going to avoid movements of fifths because that is going to give you the sense of a dominant tonic relationship. Instead, you're going to move in thirds, seconds, occasionally fourths, depending on what you want to do, but you don't want that descending fifth. The sound of a descending fifth or an ascending fourth is going to give you that classic G, C, or D to G, a 5-1, an authentic cadence. So we're going to avoid those for this purpose, and we can come up with whatever chords we want to come up with. But let's keep it in C because C is really easy to understand. It's just white keys, and we can come up with some harmony that is pretty simple. We're going to operate in what's called a pandiatonic mode. Pandiatonic means you're going to use the chords from a key, but you're going to avoid using them in a typical way. They're there for color, to fill up the harmonic space and provide color, but they're not there in order to provide a sense of tension and release that we have there. We're going to specifically not use them for tension and release. And that's going to give this piece, kind of like the last piece I did, a little bit more floaty quality. So again, if we start with C, that often gives us a home base from which we're going to operate. So we're going to avoid starting with C. Instead, we can start with anything. It could be E minor. So if we start with E minor, and then we can go, say, down a second to D minor. You can go up a third to F. You go up a third to A minor. And that's going to feel really non-functional. But you could do something different. You can go like E minor, maybe to C, down a third. And then you could go up a second to D. And then you can even go up a fourth to A. And then it's going to loop back around to a third in C. So that's not a super functional kind of harmony. I'm going to go ahead and play that in real quick just on this. And what's cool about Ableton is I can switch out the synths whenever I want, which makes it really, really simple to do. And we have to decide if it's going to go fast or slow. I'm going to make this piece probably go in a little bit mid-tempo sound because the last piece I did was very slow. So this one, let's dial it in about 90. We can turn on our metronome, set our count into, say, 2 bars, and we can hit record. We can actually let it roll a little bit before we start recording. What did I come up with? I think I started on E minor, right? No, started on E minor. E minor, C, right? E minor. E minor, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, D minor, Now I'm not really going to use this synth track at all. That's just to hear the chords. And here they are over here. And we can take this sample and just trim it up so that it's the last 4 here. And drag that back over here. Let's go ahead and let's zoom in a little bit on this view so we can see what we're doing. Chop that off. And now we have a little 4-measure phrase here. And if we want to, I can pull this up and I can edit any of the MIDI stuff I want. So like this, I could drag these out so that they're a little more connected to each other. I can select these and you can make them longer if you want. This one wants to, there we go. So we can tweak those. We can even quantize if we want. Lots of different little options, but I'm just going to leave that there just to show you what I'm doing. And from here, I can just hold down the control button and just copy this a bunch of times. I'm going to throw this away when we're done here. This is just to kind of give our first couple phrases some weight here. And I'm feeling like I want to start with some guitar instead of synth or anything. So we have 4 chords that we can start with here. And we can even make them like halftime if we wanted to. If we feel like it's too fast, we can also make them 2 bars per chord. And for something like ambient or instrumental rock, that tends to work just fine. Most of our interest is not going to be in the movement of the chords. The chords are there mostly for color. Rather, our interest is going to be in all the other stuff we do on top of it. Now, I'm going to record guitar here with a Godin. That way I can talk to you, and I'm not worried about miking or anything like that. And I'll show you another reason that I like this program, which is... Let's set this one to number 2. Record this one. All right. I can actually get some monitoring going here. We're going to turn on some reduced latency. Now this guitar is all out of tune, but that's okay because we can go over to audio effects. There's a tuner. Bam. You can even set the tuning pitch if you wanted to operate outside of 440. Like you could change the reference pitch if you wanted to. If you wanted to do like 435, more 19th century sounding. 430, you'd start to get into Baroque. They tuned a lot lower in the Baroque period. 440 is actually quite high historically. Tune it up here. Alright, so the chords I came up with were what? E minor? E minor. What was it? C major. Some fell out of tune. Make sure I'm not peaking the mic too much here. There we go. I think the fan, I have a ceiling fan on. You shouldn't tune a guitar with the ceiling fan on. It gives it a tremolo effect, makes it go wah 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 because the sound gets cut up by the fan. But we won't hear it on the tape at all. It'll be fine on the tape. Change our. So yeah, we had E minor, C major, I think D minor, A minor. So yeah, that's got a good sound to it. It's it's kind of non-functional. We can also alter those. So instead of E minor, we could do E minor 7. E minor 7 works. You do E minor 7. We could do a C, even a C7. We do C major 7. For D minor, you could do something that's a little bit like a D9, D minor 9. Put actually this F up here, so it's a bit of this sound. And then you could even create some different extensions for the A minor. You could do A minor 7 like that, or A minor 7 like this, or you could do A minor, I guess. That becomes F major, which do 11. But anyway, all right. So let's just start by playing those chords a little bit. I think I'm going to use A minor. I think it starts with E minor. I think I'm going to use the E minor 7. That voicing, because I think it has a cool voicing. We didn't use that voicing. I think I like that one. I think like doubling the third has a weird sound. So I'll use this. Then we go to E minor goes to C. So to go to C, we can just do this voicing for C, or even yeah, I like that. And then D minor, we do a standard D minor voicing and go back to A minor 7. That. So I'll do this. Sorry, I like to come up with my chord voicings first. We do C9. I think I like that. So I'll do. D minor. And then A minor 7. Which works. Now we'll come up with a pattern to do that. C6 is not a chord. I work in the jazz world. There's no 6. It'd be 13. And a 13 also requires a 7th in order for it to be a 13. Otherwise, you're just dealing with a chord in first inversion. So I never use the number 6. Whenever I see number 6, I'm like on a jazz chart, I'm like, I don't know who wrote this. They're thinking weird. As far as I'm concerned. 13, I know what that is. I know what a 13 chord is. Yeah, but I think I like that voicing. That major 7th in there. And no third. I could add the third, I guess. It sounds kind of cool without the third. Sometimes if you remove a third from a chord, it loses all its identity, but it has a cool color. So I think I'm gonna stick with that. Do this, E minor 7, like that one. I'm gonna do a standard D minor. E minor 7. That works. Okay. And let's fill our tempo. We'll practice a little bit. Oh yeah, and then then we have the chords so we can really hear them. Yeah. G minor, then A minor. Yeah. Yeah, let's try something like that. And we'll just, I'll just let it go and I'll do a bunch and we'll keep the 4 bars we want and then we'll just loop those and kind of build from there. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's giving me 1 bar. Whoop, forgot the chord. Then A minor. So that's that's good. And we can just, you can always re-record this stuff later if you want to. Kind of trim it up. And I have Snap turned on. All right. Now from here, I can also tweak like all of my guitar sounds, you know. Do you have a GGOG instrument in the program? I don't think I know what that is, actually. Guitars in my metal band? No thanks. My prog orchestral trombone metal. Well, I mean, that was the last Blind Guardian album. I don't think it worked out all that well. Also, any tips on selling music? No, I have no tips. The industry is really bad right now, and I probably wouldn't be in the instrument if I didn't have just a desire to make music. It's been bad for a long time, though. Yeah, it's not. You're not wrong, Robert. It's just a different way of thinking of it. Like C6 is kind of like a pop chord thing. Like if you're doing worship band stuff, you see that kind of stuff. But I don't do worship band stuff, so I'm not hearing this first chord. I think because maybe it comes before the first beat. That's why. Kind of lined it up there. All right. So it wasn't the best take. I'm going to do a few more here. So I'm going to change my mic modeling mode, I think, to give me a little bit brighter sound. That's a little better. I didn't have that on. That's probably why it sounded better. That's out of time. We'll have to do it again. That's a little bit better in time. And see how that sounds. Pop that over. Let me turn this track up a little bit. Yeah, that works. We'll call it good for now. Now, on the same track here, I can actually do a lot of different stuff. So let me show you some of the other stuff that we can actually do here. And this is one of the things that I think it's really good to do when you're doing ambient music. A lot of what makes ambient or ambient rock feel like ambient rock are the effects on everything. You tend to run with a lot of effects. So I like being able to use a lot of effects. Now you can really quickly like turn up delay and reverb just like this. There's a default delay and reverb down here. If I click the reverb track, there's a default reverb and a default delay. And so if you crank those up, this is what it'll sound like. I'm actually gonna turn that track off. This is like the default stuff. So if you want to just turn a little bit on, you can. But I always like to get a little bit deeper into it and just kind of just dig a little bit further into what I'm doing. Kind of customize it a little bit. So this does sound like enough like a classical guitar, like a real one, that I'd probably be happy with this. Probably turn up the reverb and turn down the delay a little bit. And then we can get a good sound here. Yeah, I know like Herman Lee's streams get a lot of attention on Twitch, which is cool because I like Herman Lee a lot. All right. So I have that, and I can, of course, if I really want to go crazy, I'll just show you what I can do. Even with a classical guitar, we can pop in some like, there's a soft tube amp and cabinet that comes with this version of it. And we can really tweak this to get some weird sounds here. All of a sudden it's way brighter. Really can do some very interesting effects. And we can even pop in some filter delay. You want to hear some cool stuff? Pop in some filter delay. And this is cool because we can dial back each individual delay. We can also pop these. See, now it's getting kind of weird, right? So something really simple all of a sudden can be quite complex. Dial some of these back here a little bit. All right, so now we got something quite a bit wilder going on. I can turn off the amp and here's with none of those extra effects on it. Yeah, you can do triads on the bass. I've done it. There's no rule against it. Just depends on how you voice it, because as you get lower lower down, it gets muddier. Things get too close together. So it all depends on how you voice it. So here's a good little loop. I'm going to stick with it, and we're going to go from there. Next, I think what I want to add is we've got 16 measures of that going on, and that's going to be kind of fun. Let's add some percussion. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up like a drum set. I'm not going to play it on my drum set because that's going to be, I have to like walk away from the computer to do that. But go to sounds. I have a bunch of plugins here. Let's see here. I think I got some drums. Packs. Got all kinds of stuff. The ones I really like this punchy one here. I think this one tends to work really well. You know, it really cuts through the mix once you get everything kind of. And I also like this because you can actually, once you load this up, you could actually switch out any of the sounds over in this corner. I'm not used to working on this small a window, by the way. I usually work on like a huge ultra-wide monitor and stuff, so it's kind of weird for me to like look at it all small. But you could totally put in some drums here pretty easily. So let's just. Easy to play this kind of stuff in. And then I can add stuff in. Let me show you a way that I did this on the last album, and I think you'll like this. So. Pop in a MIDI track here, and I'm going to have one thing that's just basically the hi-hats, and one that's basically just the rest of the drum kit, and it lets you do some weird stuff. So it's this. There we go. That's the sound. So we have a. So this is something I had a drummer on the show. Nice to see you, Sound Engraver. I had a drummer on the show like a couple Saturdays ago, and he's like, "How'd you come up with all these drum parts?" And I was like, "This is how I did it. I'd actually do half the drum set in a different thing, so I could do something really weird, like a hemiola in the hi-hat, which is so hard to play on the actual drum set that you just would never want to do it. But you could do something in 4/4, like that's going to feel really weird. But let's try it because then it's going to have a really cool feeling. We're just going to do a 3/8 hemiola, which means you're playing a part in 3/8, and it should be in 4/4, which means that the beats are going to be off from each other. You'll like it. You'll like it. Let's do it. Just hi-hats only. Actually, I'm going to try that again. 2, 3, 4. I'm just playing it 4. B. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3, 4. A wilder hemiola. The 3 hemiola sounds cool. I got something else in my head though. I think I'm gonna do like a rumba, just to keep it a little. I'll show you what a rumba is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, so that's a basic 8/8 rumba, and because whatever part I came up with sounds like rumba, I'm just gonna roll with that. And then once I have this little part, I can just copy. Actually, before I copy paste it, let's go in here and we'll just select everything and go to Edit, Quantize. There, it's gonna clean up all my bad out of time playing, so it'll sound good. Gotta have my Diet Coke when I'm working. Gotta have it. Gotta have that Diet Coke. By the way I'm recording this is I'm just using a Yeti. I'm using a Yeti that has like a front back pattern. So I have a monitor pointed at the back of the speaker pointed at the back of the mic so I can hear it. Otherwise, I'd have to do like virtual cables, and it just wasn't working. I tried it out earlier today. It's one of the reasons I haven't done these kinds of streams is like it just can't get the technology to work right. I'm like, yeah, we'll just throw up a mic, and it sounds a little off. It's not a big deal. It'll be fine. Okay, so now that we have some hi-hats, and I can actually rename this hi-hats. Okay. Just to keep track, because once we get up to like 30 audio tracks, it starts to get a little crazy. And then down here, I'm also going to add the same kit over here, and then we can kind of build in some drums over here. And actually, I might turn. I'll leave that on. Where's my height? Where's my... Man, that ride is really open. Are you interested in composing anything with a more Holst type approach? Gustav Holst? I don't have an orchestra, so probably not. Yeah, I've done that. But I just want to show this because then it's more fun. It's more fun to make it this way. All right. Here we go. we've added in like a more basic, just bass and snare. Since I don't have a kit to do fills, we'll kind of keep it there and keep the fills kind of limited. And then we can do the same thing we did before, which is just more or less select everything and quantize it. And that'll just, oops. See, that didn't do what I wanted it to do because it put some stuff in some wrong places here. I think if I zoom it in. If you zoom it in a little bit, you get a... you know, I could do 16th note and that should work. Yeah. Let me see if it's quantized. And if I feel like this hits a little too quiet, I can just pull that one out. Alright, that sounds good. Alright, so that sounds pretty good. I'm sorry if that was peaking the mic. Let me just have a buildup of the drums. Now we can start adding in some other tracks we like. We can even... you know, because this one's kind of mid-tempo and kind of just starting full bore. We can add in like a synth part. Oh, thank you for the $5 sound engraver. Thanks for being awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's put in a MIDI track here. Let's put like a synth or something in. And with this synth, I don't know. I kind of feel like something spacey, but if you guys want a cool synth, this is a really weird synth that you can put in here. Let's see if they have it. See if I have it here. I may have gotten rid of it. No, synth 1. Check this one out. So if you want like chiptune sounding synths, this one has a bunch of them. So we can go. Oh, that's all the settings are missing. All the different the different banks are missing for some reason. Well, that's interesting. Well, that one's broken. I might have to reinstall that one. But you can get a lot of weird stuff here, like stuff that arpeggiates. Like if you want really kind of spacey sounding stuff, this one has a lot, and it's free. Range. And some weird stuff. Yeah, this one's broken because it's actually missing all the effects. There should be like a bunch of sound banks here. Initial sound, that's all it says. So we'll skip that one. That one's not working today. Oh well. Yeah, let's find something kind of. We can do some single notes here. Something like that. And we'll turn it down kind of low. A little too loud. And it starts at the E. What are my chords? Yeah, it has that kind of that 80s feel. that again. I think I'm going to start with the notes. I cut the first 4, just use that much. And again, we can do, you know, I kind of want this to be pretty quiet. So trim it up like that. I want this one to be kind of quiet, so I'll turn it down. And we can even do some crazier stuff. This one has its own kind of like reverb, but you know, you could always turn in some delay and get different effects with it. I think I'm just gonna keep it kind of quiet for that one, and then we can have last time you saw someone doing these composing on reggaeton. Yeah, it's kind of science fiction-y. We'll go with that. All right, I like that. So let's copy that loop, and then we're probably going to want, because we have the drums coming in here, we're probably going to want something to enter here. So let's do another audio track down here, and see what we can do with this guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sloppy today, but we're gonna keep it simple. You can do something fast, because this is kind of be F. I don't know. So we could do something else, or we could put in like a different guitar. You know, we could always switch to a different guitar. Why don't we do that? Let's do an electric guitar, something different. And or you know, let's put in a bass track. Let's put in a bass track. I want to hit that on the fan. Let's put in a bass track, shall we? Hopefully the battery's not dead in this one. Appears to work. It appears to function. That's our audio effects. Let's drop a tuner down in here. It's a fretless bass, so we don't really need a tuner, but it's nice to be able to have your open strings at least be in tune. All right. Now let's amp in a cab. Things don't sound right without like an impulse response for the cabinet. You could use an impulse response loader and IR impulse responses to, you know, get very specific speaker sounds. I don't even really worry about that with this setup. I have that stuff. I used to use it in Cubase all the time, but this is just quicker. And honestly, like, you can get a really sound very, very close to like a Mesa Boogie on this. And then later, if I want the Mesa Boogie sound, I can always reamp. So basically, you have the audio come out of your interface. You mic that up, it goes into that, and then you mic that up, and you just let the track play and record it. And just basically, the track plays and records on a new audio track. And then you have it amped. You have it amped with a real physical amp with the sound of your guitar. You just you didn't play it live, you know. So it works pretty good. And a lot of metal bands do that, by the way. Any guys that are metal guys, this is what they all do. They record into a DAW with like this kind of stuff that I'm showing you now, and then they after they're done recording in the DAW, they pretty much reamp with a real amp later. All right. Yeah, I like fretless bass. It seems to cut through a lot of mixes better. Something about that growl with the fretless seems to work a little bit better for this kind of stuff. Plus, I just like fretless bass. It's just a different feel. It's like playing violin instead of, you know, mandolin or something, like or playing cello. You know, you have a lot more ability to. You have a much better vibrato without frets. You have that great sound. I mean, that's kind of a... That'd be a proper pentatonic sound. A nice little sound. I want a fretless guitar. All right, let's just let's record something and see what we get here. Let's start with bass. Let's have it start like kind of full on. Maybe with just a single note A or a single note E. You usually use E in 3 of the chords. Just a little warning, that open A hits really hard. Better to play it as a closed note. This is a thing with orchestral strings too. The open strings have a different sound than when you're playing it stopped with your finger. So depending on how you'll notice orchestral string players will choose not to play open strings for this reason. Is that if you play that open string, first of all, the vibrato goes away, but also it just has a different tone. It's like a kind of almost piano-like tone versus a more, just a little tighter tone when you're using your fingers. You actually should avoid open strings when you're playing something like this. Where was I? there. All right, that's probably a good little bass track. Kind of keep things going. Yeah, the glissando. Actually, it's a portamento. So glissando. You guys want to know the difference? Here's a glissando. You go up or down to the note. It's glissando. Portamento, you attack the note when you arrive. Portamento. Glissando. That's the difference. Okay, so if you ever hear those terms, glissando is when you're sliding up, and if you did it with frets, you'd hear da 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 da. You'd hear each note as you slid along the frets. But if you're doing a non-fretted instrument, it just, or like trombone, something without set intervals with it. Glissando, portamento. That's the difference between the two. Just for y'all. All right, so now we have a good little phrase of music we've written here, and I've spent a whole hour doing it. So this is a good little intro. It lasts about a minute. We have 3 phrases. We actually want our 4th phrase here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to add another phrase here and another phrase to the drums. So here we go. Drums. Some drum parts there. Do the same thing here. I can hear my dog barking. This is another great thing about using like a Godin for classical guitar is like dog can bark all she freaking wants. You know, it's not gonna show up on the recording. Which is great. All right. So got a good phrase here. I'm gonna record one more phrase of bass. Here we go. Gotta press that record button on the correct track. Now let's tweak this sound a little bit. I'm using a darker tone here. Brighten it up a little bit. Up with this treble mids. And turn up that gain a bit. Presence. Alright, get some low end going here. Alright. A little bit of interest in the bass there, and I'm going to do that one again. Do it one more time. I feel like I'm not having the same output here. That's more or less pretty good. Yeah, somehow I lost some output on the bass, fiddling with the knobs. So I might need to do this one more time. Yeah. Let's do it one more time. time. Sorry. 1, 2, ready, go. Not quite getting the sound I want here. I did something different. There we go. That's closer to what I want. Nice and growly. There we go. One more time. Time. Notice each take I do something a little bit different. That's just kind of the game here. So I just do stuff different, and then you kind of keep the best of it. What kind of doggy do I have? She is a Maltese, and the story behind her, her name is Honey Bun, and the story behind Honey Bun is my wife's aunt had a stroke some years ago, and she couldn't care for the dog anymore, so we got her. We thought she was like 12 or 13 years old, and everybody hated this dog. They wanted to put her down. We're like, no, we'll take the dog. Find out later, it's like, nah, she was like 4 years old. So we've had this dog for like 6 years, and we don't really know how old she is. She could be like 15. She could be like 11. She's nowhere near dying. And this dog, my wife does not really... My wife didn't want the dog. She doesn't like the dog that much. You end up liking the dog just because she's your dog, but she barks a lot. You know, she barks a lot. Did you ever check out the book Pulp Fictioneers? You know what? I have not. But you know what? I've had some other people actually recommend that, so that might be on the list here. Gotta go buy. All right, have a good one. Okay, so now we've got about 32 bars worth of music so far. I think it's probably good to maybe switch to another thing. And so we have bass coming in, and we have some bass interest. Let's have our guitar part pick it up and do something else. To develop from there. So this is a way that you can. We've done 32 bars of music. We've written and recorded it, and let's hear it actually without the metronome. Yeah, I don't like the bass. I'm gonna have the bass start right there. I don't like that bass intro, so we're gonna skip it. Cut it. I need one more guitar track in here. Hopefully it's not too peaky. I'm sorry if it was peaking. Sorry if it was peaking, guys. It's just hard to get all the levels correct and like be able to hear it. In fact, I'm like, man, things feel quiet. I don't know why. I'm not wearing my hearing aid. So let me put my hearing aid on. There it is. All right. There we go. All right. Let's add some electric guitar. All right. So the last one I did had only this guitar and a bass track. That's it. And I think the total tracks was like there's 6 total tracks. Not a lot for me. All right. Gonna probably start over here. Now put on auto. Do the same thing. Drop an amp down there. Oh. There we go. Sorry, guys. Started picking up on the mic. Because I have my regular mic I use is right here. And so it's still plugged into my interface. All right. So if you ever hear, like if you ever do a DI from an amp without any kind of cabinet, this is what it ends up sounding like. This is the bye. Peaking a little bit. This is a pretty high output guitar. Sounds a little dead, right? Once we start adding some cabinets, then it starts to sound like a real thing. I think I like the 212 here. It starts to sound like a real amp. All right. If you want like face melting stuff, would be, I think heavy's like supposed to be sound like a Mesa. Probably gonna do something like this. Well, maybe not. That's more like a Mesa. I'm not sure what this is. But and then see, if you really wanted to sound correct, you just you put a bunch of delay and reverb, and then it's going to be more like that's a harder one. I have to practice that one. Anyway, so yeah, we're not going to do like any kind of shredding. What I'm going to do here is probably something more like something like that. Or even we could do just something really clean. Turn that treble down. Maybe some dyads. Is it D? That would be D minor. Let's do. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, let's see what we come up with. I like that sound, so let's do that again. Sometimes if you kind of want to blur the transitions or the feeling, you could just start 2 bars early, and then you'll get the sound you want. Nope. That's a wrong note. Let's do that. That's the wrong note. Nope, those are wrong notes. I have to remember A minor. Let's do that last phrase over. Yeah, I do a lot of trem work, by the way. You guys can't see me, I realize. Like, you just see you're like watching my face as I'm like doing stuff. So yeah, I mean, to do this, here, look, watch. Let's just switch over here, okay? This surfer stuff's very easy. I just hold, I have a trem bar, and I do this. It really sounds better on my Fender, I feel like, but this is just the guitar I grabbed, so whatever. It works for this one. So all you have to do this is, if you make sure your trem is set up so you can go up and down. You can do this on a Floyd Rose. I have a Floyd Rose over there you can do this with. And it works fine. So I'm just doing a lot of control. I see a lot of ambient guitar guys just do not use a trem at all. So because they're not using a trem, they like put a bunch of tremolo effects on it, so it just kind of does all that on its own. It's way better to control it because you can do all the vibrato as slow or as fast as you want. Even if you can get like a coil tap. Anyway, so yeah, it's very simple. You're just controlling your tremolo. And if you practice that, you just grab it with those two fingers and then play with your pick in hand, and you could even do it, if you wanted. If you just keep it in the center of your hand, mine's set up, it's pretty tight, so it kind of wants to flop down, but it'll stay okay. This is easier to do the Floyd Rose if you're going to do it this way. You can grab it as you play. So yeah, learn to use your trem bar, and you can do all these effects really easily, and you can create some absolutely amazing and fun sounds. So that's something that I would recommend to most guitar players, is learn to use that part of your instrument. A lot of guys just buy them without. I have guitars without trem, but they're not, whenever I pick up an electric guitar and it doesn't have that now, I feel kind of naked. I feel naked without that trem bar. All right, so that I feel like is actually a pretty good intro here. Now, one of the things we can actually do is from here we want to approach the form of the piece. So by the form of the piece, what I'm talking about is how you organize the ideas. So if we call this section A, where we go from here depends on what kind of composition style you want to do. So if you want to do something that's very close to what I usually do with ambient, which is something that just kind of flows on, it's kind of through composed, and the repetition, there's lots of repetitions in the moment, but things over time, you're not doing an A section, a B section, A section, B section. If you're thinking of a pop song that has, a verse and a chorus, for instance. That's one way to do it. So you have to decide if you're going to do that or you're going to try something different. And for me, I usually like to do something a little bit different because that way it doesn't feel like a pop song without words. But you absolutely can just go from here and just start a new section if you want to. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new classical guitar part, and I'm going to leave some of the other parts intact. And we're going to subtly change the classical guitar part so it's something different. And then the other parts will change and they recontextualize that classical guitar part. So by the time you get to, say, the third repetition of the new classical guitar riff, you're onto something different and the audience finally becomes aware that you've changed your harmonics. You've changed what you're doing on some fundamental level. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let me switch guitars real quick here, and we'll go from there. And actually, before I do that, let me tweak the sounds on this this electric guitar, and we can actually rename it. Rename the guitar. All right. So it's very loud right now. I have a bunch of different reverb presets. So because I have a lot of different reverb presets, I can really Foyer. So you can really mess with this. And if it's too wet, you just dial it back a little bit. Now it's going to get that kind of underwater surf rock sound. I'm going to pull the regular stuff out. Do Dark Hall. Concert Hall. Cathedral. Cathedral has a lot of reflections. See, and you can just use this. Now, if you want it to be really liquidy, I'll show you what a lot of ambient guitar guys do if you're interested in this kind of sound. What they'll do is they'll actually put a couple of different delays on here. So we're just going to use simple delay. That's what most guys are going to use. And, you know, you can pop in a simple delay here. And put it like this. Put a little feedback on it. And we could drop in another simple delay. And we're going to take it off here. So you have one delay going into another delay. Or you could even do sync and like really long or something, you know. That's gonna sound pretty bad. Let's do time. Yeah. So this is what a lot of the ambient guitar guys will do. So it's, and they'll do chords like this. Something like that. I'll show you. Oh, let me show you the chord voicings I'm doing. All right. Yeah, just. I'm gonna do B flat. So that's how they get that ambient guitar kind of washy sound. They'll use multiple delays. I don't want to use that for this track, but we could totally do something like that on top here that I think might be kind of interesting. But I like the way that we're going here. So, you know, if you like that sound and you're a guitar player, now you know how to do that. And you could do it with any DAW, any DAW will let you do that. So you can do that in Reaper. You just get a delay plugin and just run two of them on one track. You could do this really easy in FL Studio. FL Studio is very easy to do this stuff with too. So whichever DAW that you like to use, that's how you can get a lot of these, a lot of those sounds. And then just learning the voicings. You can do it on keyboard too. You can always add this stuff to keyboard patches as well. So if we go back up here to let's take this off solo. Let's go back up here to like this, this thing. You can always like add some delay onto this or something if you wanted to. And see, this has a ping pong delay built in. And so you can play with that ping pong delay as much as you want to get the sound that you want. So you could play with lots of different delays. You could use two different kinds, or you know, do reminiscent of Buckethead. I don't know if I can shred like that guy, but he definitely, man, he does a lot of off the wall stuff. He's kind of a one of a kind guy. All right, let's do a new guitar track and see what we can do there. New classical guitar. And anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. This is what the stream is. So I just mostly wanted to show people a little bit of how my workflow works. This isn't too different from how I do any of the tracks that I've done, other than I would probably waffle about stuff a lot more on my own. I'm a very introverted person, and I tend to get over-focused on certain details. I do this when I'm writing prose, too. I'll agonize over the wording of a sentence that just doesn't matter and nobody cares about. So I tend to do this when it's like, I gotta get these settings here. This is another reason I like Ableton, is that it has a bunch of built-in settings, and I could just find one that works, throw it onto a track, and then maybe tweak it a little bit. I don't have to sit there all day like trying out a million different combinations of things. It does, like my tendency to be very overly detail oriented when it comes to music. This helps me because it just gets me quickly to where I need to be. In other words. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to this track. Okay. So for our next one, we keep the same chords, which E minor, C major, D minor, and we could just go one note over. So you are not one note over in the chord. So instead of playing E minor, you play G. So if you listen to my song Lux, Lux or Lux, this is basically how I did all the harmonies. Is that each section overlapped with the previous with a harmony that was what I call a compatible chord. So it would be, say, you turn C major into A minor, and if you play a C major and an A minor at the same time, you end up with an A minor 7, just to let you hear. So if you play C major, let's turn this track up a bit. You guys can't hear that. Here we go. Play C major on one hand and an A minor on the other. You're actually playing a C major 7. Is that right? No, you're actually playing an A minor 7. Right? Just in first inversion. So these two chords can go together, so you can overlap them a little bit. And you can do the same thing. E minor, you can overlap it with G major or with C major. But since we're going E minor to C major, we may not want to do that. But you could do C major to A minor or to E minor. So if we did E minor, so the first chord E minor, we turn that into G major. We turn C major into not E minor, but maybe A minor. And then we turn D minor into F major. And then you turn A minor into something else. Turn it into, you could leave it as A minor. And then, or something else. You can do anything. So why don't we try that, and we can hear kind of how that will sound. I'm just going to bring that over here for the purposes of this and turn that track back on. Here we go. You guys can't see the DAW. Here we go. So yeah, let's see. E minor, let's turn that into G major. And I want to find a really cool voicing for G major. So we can do... There's a voicing. That's kind of a tight triad feel. So what if I did something that's just a little bit different? It's kind of an E minor sound. Let's Especially E minor 7, G major is going to sound really, really fine with it. I'm going to do G7. And I think I don't like the we'll do an open B. Here's the chord. So we'll do this. We're going to turn C major into A minor, I think. So that works. You can do that, but and A minor. That works. You even do it at a 9. That's it's like Stairway to Heaven, I think. But you can use those chords. And then we'll transform D minor into something else like F. Or let's go the other direction. Oh, B flat. Ooh, I don't think or we could do B diminished. Or B minor. B minor might be interesting. B major 7, B minor. Anyway, sorry. And then B minor. And what do we want to turn A minor? We can leave it as A minor. Then we have this kind of. What if I could do a different voicing there? Let's see. Do it linear. Let's turn it into a linear one, actually. I think just the linear might sound really interesting. So let's try that out. And I need that metronome. I need that metronome. Yeah, okay. I think that'll work. I have to turn this input volume back up. Let's see if I can get rid of that squeak. Okay, so the first video I saw was the plot has become irrelevant, and the second one was where you said that music business was soul-sucking for introverts. Just reminded me of that it is really soul-sucking. Like it asked you to do two things, which is, hey, be okay sitting alone in a room and practicing for 4 hours a day. Oh, but then you have to also be okay getting up, getting on stage in front of dozens or hundreds of people and trying to give them a meaningful experience and connecting with them. Like those two things just don't go well together at all. Either you're naturally inclined toward one or the other, and it just kind of sucks to be kind of in the middle. That's why a lot of a lot of the most skilled musicians in a band are not the singer. You notice that. It's the guitar player or the drummer. Neil Peart, the drummer for Rush, was extremely introverted. Whereas Geddy Lee was very extroverted. He was an ideal frontman because he was super friendly and loved connecting with people. Neil Peart was the opposite. So he was really comfortable kind of sitting in the back. But that was kind of a good place for him, just a little bit behind the other members of the band, but still like the core, the rhythmic core of what was going on, the lyricist for the band. It really was an ideal situation for him because he could use all of his introverted natural tendencies to write the lyrics and work so much on his drumming and bringing it such a high level, while his extroverted friends did the up on the front of the stage part with their music. It's really kind of interesting to think about that. So a lot of the most skilled musicians are the introverts that play bass. It's next to the drummer, like sitting next to the drummer the whole time, and not doing that extroverted get on the front of stage kind of thing. Do you regularly follow John C. Wright's blog? I don't regularly follow it. He recently wrote a masterpiece of an article called The Last Crusade, Luciferianism. I'll check it out. I like John C. Wright a lot. I've been wanting to talk more about a lot of his books. He definitely is a guy that is a great writer, and he's now doing it as an indie. He's an independent writer now, and so that's great. We need more great writers like him on our side. So yeah, I'm gonna do some. I think that's the part I'm going to play. Let's see if I can do it at tempo, okay, guys? No, I'm playing it wrong. Let's get that input a little higher. Oh, no, I forgot to switch chords. Messed it up. But that's about the speed I want to go. Still, I need to turn it up. When you're dealing with multiple instruments that have different inputs, you tend to just kind of lose the plot here a little bit, as far as all the inputs being the correct volume. Not quite as clean as I want it. Yeah, not quite as clean as I want. I'm gonna start that over again. Thanks, Jared. I'm glad that you like this stream. I got 11 more minutes to start the next phrase, and maybe we'll just do a couple streams this week of this, and then we'll have a complete piece, and people can listen to it and see how I made it. Gotta get rid of that string squeak. if any of that was good. We'll listen to it. I tend to be pretty hard on myself. It's probably good enough. It's not quite as good as I want. I got to do it one more time. I'm sorry. Nope. Still not good enough. Nope. Yeah, I'm a little bit out of time at the end of that phrase. So maybe just keep those bars. I think it's probably acceptable. It's acceptable for this. But, you know, I mean, you're probably not hearing it, but it's like I'm hearing like my finger just very slightly squeaking. My old teacher, Juan Serrano, used to get special strings just for recording that had all the windings like polished off, and they only sounded bright enough for a few hours. But it got rid of all that string noise. So, I mean, I understand it. Bugs me. Probably doesn't bug y'all nearly as much as it bugs me, but that's where we're at. So, and what we do here anyway is we keep the old harmony here, and this stuff is the same, and then you slowly move. So by the third phrase, you've transferred everything over into this harmony. So like we do bass and it continues the previous harmony, and then it switches over there. The drums, you know, maybe the drums continue their pattern and then they start to switch over to a new pattern. And you could do this with this. This continues a pattern and then it starts to switch over to another pattern. And then it goes on like that. And so this is one of the ways that I can take one, you know, this is really just two ideas. And we're going to take up 64 measures. We're going to write 3 minutes of music on 2 ideas. Sounds good to me. You know, that's pretty efficient. But it really gives the listener time to kind of explore all the different layers of what you're doing. So you can actually get the mood across. And this is still, to me, it's not a melancholy piece. It's not like a hard driving piece. It's just kind of a calm piece to me, even though it's mid-tempo. It's just kind of middle of the road, easygoing piece. You know, kind of a... Especially if you choose like about 90 beats a minute, you're in kind of like... all the like hip-hop songs are all about 90-95 minutes, and they're pretty... So if you want that kind of laid-back sound, 90-95 beats a minute. You know how it feels. The hardest part of recording is deciding when it's good enough. Things were easier when you had to pay for studio time and rewind the tape. Yeah, because you did it was good enough. And so a lot of times if you messed up at the end of the song, you'd be like, we're just fading that out. We're doing the radio fade. You know. Why did I grab the wrong instrument. I didn't want this instrument. Wanted this here bass guitar. Oh yeah. This thing is heavy. This thing's a log. Look at this thing. Oi! Big old log. I realize this bass track's a little dry. Let's add just a little bit of reverb so that it blends in right. Let's going to add something that's really pretty simple. You don't want to add too much reverb on the bass. It gets too boomy. But a little bit can just make it blend in a little bit better. Then a small room. About dry it up. There we go. That's what we want. That's a good sound. So we're going to keep that same bass line going there. I'm a little bit quiet. I'm going to turn up the input a little bit. That's what I want. I want that treble. All right. Get that growl. That's what I want. Whoops. I think I'm going to have the bass maybe be the last thing to switch. Then we switch right here to the new part. So pretty much on the fourth phrase, and that's just what did I write? It's just, what were the chords? Oh, yeah. So it was down to B minor, A, B. Oh, is that right? What did I do? Oh, that's right. G. So, yeah, I went G. What did I do? G, A. All right, let me listen. right, yeah. So there's just some inversions. That's why I'm getting confused. Oh yeah, let's start right there. Yeah, that's the sound we want right there. Let's do that again. And that's the way we would go on with this. So. You can see that the bass more or less works with the chords anyway. The way that cut, so I'll probably re-record the whole thing. Actually, I'm going to re-record the whole thing starting right there. Let's try that again. Start doing some variations here. Something like that, you know. So you can start doing variations on the other phrase here. It's the same thing we did. You give the bass line, then you do some variations. I pretty much like to play the bass part like I'm a live bass player, like I'm actually feel like I can walk the bass line a little bit. You know, do something like that. Like I said, I come from a jazz background, so it's normal for me to think like that. So anyway, it looks like we're out of time for the stream. So we've come up with 2 phrases, and basically I would just continue the same workflow. After this phrase, I'd probably try to come up with something that was kind of different. Maybe I'd drop some instruments, add some different instruments in. Maybe have a guitar solo during one of these sections, like something more like a jazz or a rock guitar solo to just provide a little bit more melodic interest, and that's how I would go with this, and continue what I was doing here. David, you're just like me when I record. I use Logic and do 8 to 10 takes for one musical phrase. I have to get that sound notes right. That's how it is. And like a squeak or like one note is just slightly out of tune, you're like, no, I got to do it again, because that's going to be on tape forever. You know, and that's the thing. It's like, man, this is going to be on tape forever. And like there's mistakes on the last album I recorded, and if I listen to it again, I'm like, oh, there's that note that I didn't press just right, and it kind of went, kind of buzzed a little bit. It's just how it is, you know. And so it's at a certain point you have to say it's good enough, but because you can't achieve perfection, but you want to get as close as possible within reason. If it's like, man, it's going to take me so much more effort to just get rid of that one buzz note, it's like, so let it remain, or you do something else to try to minimize it so people don't notice it. You know, put like oh, there's a buzz right there. Man, how do I get rid of that buzz? It's like I got something for you. You guys ready? Let's put a nice cymbal crash over that buzz, and no one's gonna hear it. All right, were you partially inspired by the Town acoustic guitar music from the original Diablo on PC? No, I don't even remember it. I don't remember what it sounds like at all. I've heard that before. I would say I'm much more inspired by things that are way older than that. stuff going all the way back to the 60s. So a lot of the stuff like Dick Dale and the Dale Tones, a lot of rockabilly stuff sounds like that. I'm way more influenced by Reverend Horton Heat and by just a lot of the older rock and jazz guys. You know, I'm way more influenced by all of that older stuff than newer video game music. I don't remember what the Diablo guitar sounds like. I've heard that before. I haven't played Diablo in 20 years, so I just don't remember it. It's nothing against it. If Diablo 3 was the last Diablo game I played, and I haven't played it in like 3 years, so there you go. It's been great troubleshooting my own music while listening to you record. Your style of music helped me focus. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so that's probably going to be it for tonight. I really do appreciate everybody, stopping by and letting me, play a little bit of music. So I do appreciate it, and maybe we'll do more of this. So let me know what you think if you're watching the replay of the video in the future, and we'll maybe go from there. Oh yes, I heard they're going to stop making Aunt Jemima syrup. Land O'Lakes butter just has a plain picture of a lake now, and Uncle Ben's days are apparently numbered. So this is a thing about this really started with various Native American tribes complaining that there's a generic Indian on something, a Indian brave with like a feather headdress like from Peter Pan, which I think there's like a little warning on Peter Pan if you watch it on Disney Plus that's like, this could be considered culturally insensitive. You should talk with your kids about it. What made the red man red? So Aunt Jemima, though, I don't really get, though, because it's like, I think that was a brand that they bought from a black woman. I think there's a real Aunt Jemima. Why not get rid of Colonel Sanders? Like, is Colonel Sanders okay because he's white? Like, why can't have a... It's not like Aunt Jemima's not a mascot so much as she was an actual person. So it's a brand, right? It's weird. And same thing with, like, Uncle Ben. If it was, are they going to get rid of Yoshido's soy sauce? It has Mr. Yoshido on it. Him. You know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen it at Costco. The big bottle of soy sauce, and it's got him like with the hat, and he's all super happy, like, I'm putting soy sauce on this. Buy my soy sauce. You're going to take him off of that. This is offensive Japanese stereotype. It's a Japanese guy in a cowboy hat selling teriyaki and soy sauce, right? It's his brand. Are we just not allowed to have people? It's like, only people who are not white? I don't know. I don't really get what they're going with it. But yeah, I heard about that. If you're ever in the mood for some 50s to 60s style rockabilly music, I highly recommend the Millwinders. All right, I'll check them out. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Newest book is called Tyrant's Gallow. Here's the physical copy. Tyrant's Gallow. It's cool. So maybe we could take a look at the... There we go. Here's what the book cover looks like in the light of day. Yes. It actually turned out pretty good once we went to the... Once you go to the ink space, it's kind of hard. It's a little dark, but it looks pretty good on the screen. So I'm fairly happy with it. I don't think I'll need to make any tweaks to the physical edition. I think it looks good. And it's got the map in it and everything's in it. So I think we're good. It's too bleached out there. I think we're good to go with that. So anyway, guys, I do appreciate it, and I will see you all next time. Oh, Aunt Jemima was not a real person, just a trademark. The first actress hired to play her was Nancy Green. Interesting. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I will see you all next time.